are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business. Welcome to another episode of Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. This is your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. Today we have Christine Osazuwa. Christine is multi-hyphenate, Chief Strategy Officer of Shoobs, founder of Measure of Music, a virtual conference composed of panels and discussions with leading professionals at the intersection of music and technology. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Christine as we're both women of color in music and technology, and I was delighted to be invited as a speaker at this year's Measure of Music conference. She just exudes big boss energy, so I knew I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Christine to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. How are you feeling?
Thank you so much, Nisha. I'm so excited to be here. I'm feeling great. It's day 5 of South by Southwest, so a little run down, but that's part of the job, isn't it?
Amen. Yeah, I'm sure you're used to this, though. It's not your first time out here.
Nope, definitely used to this. Definitely used to going all over the place for conferences. So like worst things in life, right?
And exactly. And I just want to see more of us in this space. And actually, that's why I have you on the show, because I'm like, it's just so few of us in the space of music and technology. And I love the idea of us being able to pull in more women of color into this space. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right in. Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led you to becoming Chief Strategy Officer of Shoobs and founder of your own virtual conference.
Yeah, so I got my start in the music industry when I was 15 years old. Basically, I started booking shows at 15. The first show I ever booked was my 16th birthday party, and I fell in love with the music industry pretty early on. Basically, I started running street teams for artists. I also became a web developer at the time, so I was managing my MySpace pages, things like that, basically for a few years, booking shows. I started a print magazine about local music in the area I'm from. I'm from Baltimore in the States. So I started a print magazine when I was 16, book shows with that as well. Really loved working in the section of marketing, artist development, audience development. And I ended up going and studying my undergrad degree in the music business. I actually created my own major because the school I went to actually have a music business major, but I loved that. And I filmed a documentary about the music industry when I was 20, basically for my senior thesis for school. I filmed it on Warped Tour. That's where I worked on Warped Tour for different years, helping out in various projects and things like that. Absolutely loved kind of working in that space, basically. And so filmed a documentary. It was about how social media and art, social media affects the way artists interact with their fans. Basically, this was the era of MySpace and Twitter before Instagram was really a thing, and exploring parasocial relationships before we had a word for parasocial relationships. Basically, it was a really great time. I did that to end off my undergrad degree for various places. I worked for venues. I worked at Fort Atlantic Records as a contractor for a bit. I worked for radio stations, so anything I could find in the music industry for years. Then my first job out of school was at a ticketing company based in Baltimore that I was employee number 2. So I did everything essentially, which was a blast. The best job to have when you're 21 years old is a place that sells all the concert tickets in town. So I did that for about 3 years before moving out of music for a bit to higher ed. For 3 years there, where I got my MBA in marketing and my master's in data science. We're moving abroad to Sweden, where I worked at Universal Music Group. And then I left Universal Music Group Sweden after about 2 years and moved to the UK, where I worked for Warner Music Group, and the global marketing team as director of data and insights there. Left there to join a few startups, and that's where I am now at a startup in the event ticketing, event marketing, and artist marketing, basically. And the company I work for now, called Shoobs, is Black woman owned. Actually, my boss, the owner, the founder of the company, was the first Black woman to ever be in Y Combinator. Later 14. I always say what year that number of Y Combinator was, because 14 Y Combinators had the back before the first Black woman was in Y Combinator. And she did an excellent job starting this company almost a decade ago now. And I was going to be able to join in on the team and get to explore, because the company focuses specifically on Black music and culture, ranging from piano, Afrobeat, the R&B, jazz, so
I love that. Oh my gosh, just the full spectrum of experience in the music business from so many different levels. And the fact that now you work for someone who she's a woman of color as well, I think that just speaks part of the course of you also just being an advocate and having that kind of mentorship. And so let's go into that a little bit too. Like, have you had mentors in the music industry? What does that even look like to be a mentor?
Yeah. I've had some, I've had maybe only one like actual formal mentorship within the music industry. I've had a lot of informal mentorship in the music industry over the years. I was part of a program called Power Up, which is funded by the PRS Foundation in the UK. And Power Up is a program that targets mid-level executives and mid-level artists that need like a boost in their career, basically. I was part of the first cohort with a year-long cohort that was about 2 years ago now, and it was an
Wow.
amazing experience. So cool. There's 40 of us as part of that program. I received a mentor. My mentor is named Keith Harris. He's an absolute legend in the Black British music scene over here, and it was incredible to like, hey, is this thing that I'm going through normal? Have you seen this? Have you gone through this, et cetera, and just having like that back and forth conversations for like, am I crazy? Continuously, it was super helpful. And then in addition to that, I had plenty of like informal mentors. I really have to say like one thing that I found really, really like kind of like the intersection between mentors and like more just like allyship and advocacy is I've had a lot of
Mhm.
white men, like a lot of white men that are like champions. And
Mhm.
obviously they are the majority in the rooms. They're the ones in leadership positions. So having those people there to speak my name when I'm not in those rooms was absolutely instrumental to like the opportunities I was able to have throughout the year. Who not necessarily like the same like as like mentoring, but really like, hey, I have this idea or I have this thought. What do you think about this? Can you get this to so and so? Do you think they'll be open to hearing about this, et cetera, et cetera? And having that, it's a really instrumental to kind of grow in my career.
Completely. And the data research that I conducted showed that most women of color, unfortunately, do not have mentors. And
Mm-hmm.
yet we know from other studies that it increases your bottom line by $40,000 over the span of your career. So it
Mm-hmm.
actually affects how much money you can take home at the end of at the end of
Mm-hmm.
your career. So it's absolutely crucial to also gain feedback, to know how to grow within this industry. And like you said, the sponsorship aspect of it, of someone being able to see your name in the rooms that you may not be in at that time. So that's great that you had that ability, but that you're also giving back in that way, and paying
Yeah.
it forward. So what are the challenge? There's so many challenges that women of color specifically face in this business. What are the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about being, a Black woman working in the music industry. My background is in, like I mentioned, my MBA in marketing, my master's in data science and code.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always what's interesting is like when a microaggression is happening, I never know which reason why it's happening, basically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so in addition, I live in the UK, I live in London. So basically, I'm a Black woman and I'm an immigrant from the country I'm in. I'm an immigrant from China and Sweden as well, obviously. And so I'm never like, I wonder if it's because I'm a woman. Like, I'm like, cool, are they sexist? Are they racist? Are they xenophobic? Like, I'm not really sure which one we're tackling at the moment. Trying to
Wow.
do a fun combination of all three, obviously. And so, like, part of it is just trying to figure out like what people feel as. I know this sounds like really like rudimentary, but it's just like, okay, cool. Like, what am I about to step into? You never think you're about to step into. Like I wouldn't think I had like, a bunch of like overt racist things happen or a bunch of overt sexist things happen. It's just like little things. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like people say things like they're like when I say, oh, like, yeah, I can code. They're like, oh, wow, that's so impressive. And I'm like,
Right.
well, you wouldn't say that to like, a man that can, like little bits and pieces here that always felt really frustrating. In addition to that, one of the common kind of like quote that I've heard is around, men get promotions based on potential, and women get promotions, based on what they've already done.
Right.
That goes
Oh,
back to the you have to work twice as hard to get half as far.
no.
And so it's
Yeah.
like continuous, like, me having conversations with people and they're asking me, what my qualifications to do X, Y, and Z thing is. And I'm like, well, I have 3 degrees to start off with, in addition to my 10 years of experience. But that didn't seem like enough when I'm saying, hey, I need promotion or I need more support or I need whatever it might be. I'm here like doing a whole stuff like,
Yeah.
song and dance to get what I need. And I know other people wouldn't experience the same kind of question.
You just dropped some major bars because those are some very, I share a lot of those same experiences, just from the microaggressions to the underestimation to why do I
Mm-hmm.
have to keep proving myself? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even when people know or understand the challenges, a lot of times they have to be deliberate and they don't realize they have this subconscious bias that's that goes into play when they look at
Of
us. And
course.
it's unfortunate, but I'm glad that you've overcome those challenges because it gives us an opportunity to see ourselves in those positions, right? Like, okay, we can still succeed even though we're having to deal with a lot of the pushback and the disrespect. So thanks for sharing that. I really resonate with that. What would you say was your mama I made it moment? That moment you were like in the right direction, and what characteristics do you attribute to having reached that point?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been a few different times where I was like I literally actually called my mom,
Yeah.
which is really quite cool. I think there's some stuff that's like kind of like special to me, and like what I mean by that is, for example, when I was at Warner, one of the bigger artists I know, Warner Music Group is Burner Boy. Who's a Nigerian Afrobeat artist. I was really excited how my family kept working with Burner Boy album. We're doing the marketing for it. That was super exciting. Because I'm first generation American and Nigerian, and like that felt really special to get to work on a project that was so impactful to my culture and my people as a whole. And like that's like it was
Yeah.
just like I mean, like in the scheme of everything, it was just one of many projects I was working on while I was at Warner, but that one felt especially special to me because of what it means. And that album,
Really.
the second album, I wasn't working on the second album, but the album I was there before did really well. But the album that came after I left ended up becoming number 2 in the UK, and it did really well across the US. And it was like, oh, so great to be a part of like that right track, basically.
That's so
Um, and
awesome.
and then like another area that also like kind of made it was like being, the first time I saw my name in Billboard, first time
Yeah.
I saw my name in Music Week, like the first time I saw my
Yeah.
name in places that I had, in company what I've been reading, companies that I've admired. For my conference, I run a conference called Measure Music, like conventions, music academia conference and hackathon. When I got sponsors from, like down things like that, where it's like, oh, these are the companies and the people and the publications that I have read, admired, etc. for years that
Yeah.
like acknowledge how I exist, and giving me awards or giving me funding for my projects, whatever it might be. Like those are like the like, oh, this is actually real, this is actually happening moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Part of why we have this podcast is because I think we have a tendency to outperform those around us. And unfortunately, we're not able to sit with those accomplishments, right? So what happens is we're like from project to project, not realizing that what we're doing is really special and what we're doing does deserve recognition. So congratulations on all of your success. And I know how that feels when you're being co-signed by major institutions. It's absolutely a blessing. So I love to see it. Just continue to keep pushing, girl. I appreciate you for doing what you do.
And you too, girl. Obviously, you're doing amazing as well.
Thank you. We just starting out here, we're just starting
Yes.
out here, but I appreciate, being able to see other women do their thing. And it's inspiring and motivating. So
Yeah.
what advice in that token, what advice would you give aspiring women of color in the music business?
Oh gosh. That's a great question. I think really it's like what they always tell everyone is find your people. Like find your people, and what I mean by that is like the people that you can cry on the shoulder of, the people that you feel comfortable being vulnerable with. That could be in your workplace, that can be outside of your workplace, that can be someone not even in the music industry, but like the people that are real people, the people that you can just like talk shit to, and like they're not gonna tell nobody. Like those people. You need to find those people because the music industry is 100 times easier when you have people that love and support you and are rooting for you, because there's a whole lot of people, especially if you're a Black woman in the music industry, that are definitely not rooting for you. And so having those people
That.
only care about your well-being, only want to see you thrive and succeed, like those are your people. I remember I did a talk recently. Someone asked me, sorry, someone's always going by to make sure. So I did a talk recently, and someone asked me, they're like, yeah, I see a lot of my friends in the progressing quicker in the music industry than I am, and it makes me feel really bad. I'm not really sure what to do about it. Like how do you like tackle that? And I said basically, I was like, every time a friend gets like a cool job or something like that, my first thought is like, cool, I'm so happy for them. It's awesome. But my second thought is awesome. Now I have a contact at XYZ company. Like having
Yeah.
like real genuine friendships and people you care about means you're excited for them when they have a promotion or something good happens to them. But also like those are your real people. Those are the people that you're gonna be like, yeah, hey, let's work on this project together, let's do this together, let's do X, Y, and Z together. And it's so great to have those people. And we're like, cool, that's why everyone else is doing it out here, right? Like everyone else is calling up their friend and giving them the contract, giving them the opportunity, giving them the project, giving them the new job, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
we should be able to do the exact same thing. And as we progress up, in the music industry, as we progress, we have to leave that door open, put that ladder down, bring other people up with us. And so having those people in your corner that you love and support you, that makes everything easy.
I love that. Yes, it's about blasting that door open and keeping it open as well.
Yes.
Being able to vouch for each other. A lot of times, because there's so few of us in these spaces, especially in music tech, I feel like, first of all, we're very competitive people.
Mm-hmm.
We are very competitive people just by nature. And so when there's so few of us, we have a tendency to have that crabs in a barrel mentality where it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, there's only enough room for one of us at the table, but we need more of us in those rooms. Like, it's unfortunate that the industry tends to push us into this monolithic view because they only have one representative from the community in those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just important for us to, like you said, bring each other, find your tribe, speak up for one another,
Mm-hmm.
and find opportunities for each other.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let them pit you against each other because only in their best interest
Exactly.
let that happen.
Exactly. If there was one thing you could have done differently in terms of pursuing your career, what would it have been?
Yeah, actually, that's like there's only one like it's not even a regret or like I wish I've done this kind of thing that I would ever start my career. It's just I wish I would have left home sooner. Love my
Mhm.
parents, love my family. Baltimore's a really small
Mhm.
market, and I was very excited about 20. I did a lot of schooling between and growing up. I went to like 8 years, 7.5, 8 years of school. But I was doing Baltimore. I didn't even have first done. I really wish I would have taken the chance, taking the leap, and it's like, well, I'm going to New York City now. I'm going to Nashville now. I'm going to whatever now, rather than waiting so long because I think I would have progressed much faster in my career if I did in the right cities. One thing I'm
Mhm.
working on with Measure of Music, which is a fully virtual conference, is that I want to make sure people can stay in their cities, can stay in the country they're
Yes.
in if they want to. Not saying they need to, but if they
Yes.
want to. But when I was growing up, like that wasn't really an option. Baltimore had a great music team, but not a great music industry. And so I was left sooner. And now I'm working very hard to make sure that people don't feel like they need to leave to be able to do what they want to do.
I love that you did that too, because a lot of people now are discouraged from the virtual, only because of the pandemic, all of us were
Mm-hmm.
virtual for a while, and that I guess was triggering for some folks.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've been able to kind of sustain that model, I think is very important. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
now everyone's interconnected and can be and participate. So, and I think that's just a valid point. Being able to bet on yourself and step out of your comfort zone, explore other areas. Because a lot of people don't leave where they're from, and but
Mm-hmm.
that also speaks to the fact that there's a privilege in being able to go to school outside of your state, or
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that you utilize the tools that were available to you, I think that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
One last thing, what are some common misconceptions that people have of women of color in this industry?
Yeah, I think that there is, I mean, one of the overarching things is like this, it's getting slightly better. I'm not saying it's anywhere close to perfect, but it's getting slightly better. Is this idea that, I mean, across the story of like, Black people in the music industry, it's like, great, so cool, you're going to be in the urban department. Yeah. And anytime anyone says something like that, right now I'm in a role where I'm working with Black music specifically, and I'm really excited about that. And I do love, I love Afrobeats. I love, hip hop, etc. But like that's not the whole of me. My favorite band is Fall
Right.
Out Boy and has been since I was 14 years old. So let's talk some pop punk. Like I can work
Yes.
across genre. And this presumption that we can only work one genre of music or one like weird conglomerate of all genres that you try to bucket together of music is something that I'm hoping people are seeing more now that that's not the case because the reason why I say that's really important is because essentially, if you look at the major labels, you look at the label heads of a lot of the major labels, they're able to become label heads of major labels without any experience in Black music. Meaning they can have most of their experience being pop music, most of their experience being rock music, and they become a label head. But on the flip side, it is basically impossible to become a label head without the experience in pop and rock music. So if you're not cross genre trained, so if you're not getting training across hip hop, rap, but also country, pop, etc., you are not in line to ever become that label head. It's not foreseeable for you essentially. And so if they're going to decide to pigeonhole it all in one genre, they pigeonhole also in genre that's not going to ever let us become label president, then we have to break out of that And I always tell people that even if that is the area you want to work, even if that's your love and that's your passion, if your ambition is to, I'm going to be a label head one day, you can't just be in that space because
Yeah.
they're not going to give you the label head position if you, even though it's the biggest genre in the world, they're not going to give you label head position if you only work rap music.
Facts. Oh, that was such a major key that you just dropped right there, because a lot of us do realize that that's that kind of like tokenism that plays in,
Mm-hmm.
the optics quota issue where they're hiring more of us to fulfill or to be the messenger of the hip hop community. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, we're not a monolith. We like all different kinds of music. Also, we
Exactly.
are the originators of
Right.
all these other
Mm-hmm.
genres too. So
Yeah.
frankly, we should be experts in the other lanes as well. But I think that's just such a major key that you just dropped there. I hope that people are really listening to that. So thank you so much again, Christine, for being on the show. I feel like this has been a long time coming. I'm so grateful that you've
Yes.
been here and that we've been able to build a bit of a sisterhood, a sistership. What can we expect from Christine in the future? What are you excited about right now?
Yeah. So we first of all, obviously, it's been a pleasure to be on the podcast. Thank you for the invitation. It's wonderful to get to hang out IRL.
Yes.
Amazing time it's been in Texas. But yeah, I mean, to me, what I'm looking forward to on the stage for. The Measure Music Fest yearly happened a few weeks ago, but of course, thinking about in the future, thinking about the next one already. This last year we had 2,000 registration in 93 countries. It was incredible. So obviously, hoping to grow and do that even bigger next year. In addition to that, and my day job, one of the areas that we're looking to work in a lot more is working directly with artists, working directly with labels, directly with artist managers to do a lot more in the space of artist and audience development. Essentially, I would say a person that streams one track is not a fan, and I always talk about how the best way to determine a fan is based on, time and money, right? How much time they're willing to spend with an artist, how much money they're willing to spend with an artist, right? And I think concerts and live events in general is a great intersection of both of those things. So what I'm hoping to do over the next few months, I'm really excited about my role as Shoobs, is to do just that, embrace that, and figure out how we can work directly with artists to make sure that they are building fans, not just building streams.
Yes. Ooh, I'm excited for you. Like, if there's anything I can do to support what you're doing, feel free to reach out. And how can
Yes.
people reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah. I am very prolific on LinkedIn. Feel free to give me a connect. Make sure you say you found, you listen to the podcast, and feel free to give me a connect. Would love to meet up with more people. I am out on Instagram, so don't look for me there. And if you want to reach out directly, just send me a DM on LinkedIn. We'll chat.
Well, you heard it here. Reach out to her. She says she's available, y'all. She's a major resource. Make sure to check her out. And thank you so much, Christine. Till next
Thank you,
time.
Janisha. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.